My name is Bublo. Life hasn't been easy for me since my wife passed away 2 years ago, leaving me alone with my little daughter, Lena. I never imagined I would become a single dad at 28, struggling between 2 jobs, torn jeans, and sleepless nights. But that's what life made of me. That night, the rain poured as if the sky itself was crying for me. I had just picked up Lena from my sister's house after finishing my late shift at the garage. She was wrapped in a red blanket, her little curls wet from the misty night air. I walked across the old iron bridge, hoping to reach home faster. But then I froze. There she was, a young woman standing on the edge of the railing. Her hair was soaked, her red dress clung to her frame, and her trembling hands gripped the cold iron bar. I saw her face illuminated under the streetlight, pale, broken, and filled with tears that blended with the raindrops. I tightened my hold on Lena, my heart racing. My daughter stirred and whispered softly, "Daddy, why is that lady crying?" I didn't know what to answer, but I knew one thing. I couldn't just walk past her. I stepped closer, my boots splashing in the rainwater. "Hey," I said, my voice firm but soft enough not to startle her. "Don't jump." She turned her head slightly, her eyes red and swollen. "Go away," she whispered, her voice trembling. "You don't understand." No one does. But I did understand. Maybe not her pain exactly, but the feeling of losing everything, of standing at the edge of a life you no longer want. I had been there once too, only Lena had pulled me back. "I may not know your story," I said, extending my free hand toward her. "But I know one thing, if you let go tonight, you'll take all the chances of tomorrow with you. And trust me, tomorrow can still surprise you." Her lips trembled, her fingers clutching the railing tighter. For a moment, silence ruled. Only the sound of rain and Lena's soft breathing against my chest. Then something inside her broke. A sob escaped her lips, and her knees weakened. That was when I reached out further, stretching past the railing, clutching her trembling hand in mine. "I've got you," I said firmly. "I won't let you fall." And for the first time that night, hope flickered in her broken eyes. Her hand was ice cold in mine, trembling so much I thought she would slip away. With Lena pressed against my chest, I used all the strength I had in my free arm to pull the young woman back over the railing. Her feet touched the wet ground, but she collapsed almost instantly. I caught her shoulder before she could fall. Her hair clung to her face, rain pouring down in streams, but it couldn't hide her beauty, though it was a beauty drowned in sadness. "Easy," I said, trying to steady her. "You're safe now." Her lips quivered, and her voice cracked. Why did you stop me? You should have just let me go." I swallowed hard. Those words stung because they reminded me of nights when I, too, had thought the world would be better off without me. But then Lena stirred in my arms, opening her sleepy blue eyes. The little one looked straight at the woman and whispered softly, "Don't cry, lady." The woman's eyes widened, tears mixing with raindrops. For a second, her face softened. She reached out her hand as if to touch Lena but stopped midway, pulling back quickly. "What's your name?" I asked her gently. She hesitated, her jaw trembling, before whispering, "Katrina." I nodded slowly. "Katrina, listen, I don't know what you've been through, but I do know this, when the storm passes, things look different. Sometimes you just need someone to hold on until it does." She looked at me like she wanted to believe, but pain still chained her heart. "You talk as if life hasn't crushed you," she muttered bitterly. I gave a dry laugh, adjusting Lena in my arm. "Crushed me? Life has chewed me up and spit me out. I'm a mechanic who can barely pay rent. My wife died young, and I've been raising my daughter alone ever since." Her expression shifted, surprise flickering through her sadness. "Then why do you keep going?" she asked in a whisper. I looked down at Lena, who was now resting her tiny head on my shoulder, trusting me fully. I brushed a wet curl from her forehead and said softly, because she needs me, and maybe because I still believe there's something worth fighting for. Katrina's eyes filled again, but this time with something more than grief, something closer to longing. For the first time, she wasn't just a girl on the edge of a bridge. She was someone holding on barely to the possibility that maybe, just maybe, life still had meaning. The rain showed no mercy that night. Katrina stood there shivering in her soaked red dress, her eyes darting as if she didn't know where to go. I couldn't just leave her on that bridge. She looked fragile, like one harsh wind could knock her down again. I tightened my grip around Lena, who had already drifted back to sleep in my arms, her little red blanket shielding her from the cold. I turned to Katrina. You can't stay here, I said. Come with me. She flinched, stepping back. No, I don't know you. And you don't know me. I sighed. You're right. But what I do know is that it's freezing, and you're shaking like a leaf. If you collapse here, no one will be around to help. I'm not offering much. Just a roof to keep the rain off and maybe a hot cup of tea. For a moment, her pride wrestled with her exhaustion. Then her shoulders slumped, and she nodded faintly. We walked through the deserted streets, our shoes splashing through puddles. My small apartment was just a few blocks away. The hallway smelled of rust and old paint, the kind of place people forget exists. But to me, it was home. Inside, I quickly laid Lena on the worn couch, covering her with a quilt. She stirred but didn't wake. Then I fetched a clean towel and an oversized sweater from the shelf. Here, I said, handing them to Katrina. She hesitated before taking them. When she emerged from the bathroom, her red dress was folded over her arm, and she wore my sweater, which hung loosely on her frame. For the first time, she looked less like a stranger on the edge and more like someone who belonged. Sit, I told her, pulling out a chair at the small wooden table. I boiled water and set out 2 chipped mugs. Steam rose as I placed the tea in front of her. Katrina wrapped her hands around the mug, staring at it for a long time before whispering, I didn't think anyone would stop me tonight. I sat across from her, watching her avoid my eyes. Maybe the world isn't as empty as you think. Her lips trembled. But it feels that way. Every day. I wanted to ask her why, but something told me not to push. Instead, I leaned back and said, You don't have to tell me anything. Not tonight. Just breathe. You're safe here. For the first time since I had seen her on the bridge, she exhaled deeply, as if the weight of her chest had loosened just a little. Lena stirred again and mumbled in her sleep. Katrina's gaze softened at the sound, her eyes following my daughter. She's beautiful, she whispered. I smiled faintly. She's the reason I'm still standing. Silence filled the room, but it wasn't heavy anymore. It was the silence of 2 broken people realizing maybe they weren't as alone as they thought. The kettle's quiet hiss had faded, and only the sound of the rain against the window filled the room. Katrina sat at my table, her hands clasped tightly around the warm mug, though she hadn't taken a sip for a while. I didn't press her. Some wounds bleed deeper when forced open. Instead, I just sat there, repairing one of Lena's little shoes with an old sewing needle. It was something I did often, fixing what was broken even if it never looked perfect. Finally, she spoke. Her voice was fragile like glass. I had everything once, she began. Or at least that's what people thought. A good family name, money, clothes, cars, all the things people chase. Her eyes glistened as she glanced at me, then quickly away. But behind closed doors it was all poison. My father was powerful but cruel. My mother was sick for years, and no one cared. When she passed, I was left alone with him. He controlled everything. My choices, my future, even who I was supposed to marry. I set the shoe down, my chest tightening. I didn't say a word. I let her keep going. I ran away, she whispered, her voice breaking. Left everything. I thought I'd find freedom, but I found emptiness. No one wanted me, only for what I could offer. Tonight. Her throat closed, tears sliding down her cheeks. Tonight. I thought maybe the world would be better off if I just disappeared. Her confession hung in the air like a storm cloud. I leaned forward, my hands clasped together. Katrina, listen. You're not nothing. I don't care what money you lost, what people you left. You're here. And that means your story isn't over. She looked up at me, her eyes searching. How can you still believe in life when it's been so cruel to you? I glanced toward the couch where Lena slept peacefully, her little chest rising and falling. A soft smile touched my lips. Because every morning when she opens her eyes, I realize life still trusts me with something precious. And if life can trust me, then maybe I should trust it back. Katrina's lips parted slightly, as if she wanted to say something but couldn't. Instead, she covered her face with her hands, breaking down into silent sobs. Without thinking, I moved around the table and gently placed a hand on her shoulder. She didn't pull away. For the first time that night, she let herself cry. Not on a bridge, not in the storm, but in a place where someone was willing to listen. I didn't tell her everything would magically be fine. I knew better than that. Instead, I whispered, sometimes the ones who are most broken are the ones who end up shining the brightest. And in that moment, though her heart was heavy, a tiny spark lit up in her eyes. Morning light crept through the thin curtains of my small apartment, painting soft streaks of gold across the floor. The storm had passed, leaving behind a silence almost too pure, as if the world itself had been washed clean. I woke to the sound of giggles, something rare in my home since my wife's passing. My heart raced as I turned toward the living room. There, sitting cross-legged on the floor, was Katrina, with Lena in her lap. She had tied Lena's curls into messy pigtails, both of them laughing as if they had known each other for years. For a moment, I just stood there in the doorway, watching. It was the kind of scene I thought I'd never see again. My daughter's laughter had been my only strength, but hearing it echo alongside another's warmth, it did something to me. "You're awake," Katrina said, her cheeks flushing slightly when she noticed me. I rubbed my neck awkwardly. "Yeah. Looks like someone's already made a new friend." Lena's tiny hands clutched Katrina's sweater. "Daddy, she's nice. Can she stay?" The innocence in my daughter's voice hit me deep. I wanted to say yes, but I caught the flicker in Katrina's eyes, a mixture of longing and fear. She probably didn't believe she deserved to stay anywhere. I should go soon," she murmured, her gaze dropping. I frowned. "Go where?" Her silence was answer enough. She had nowhere. Later, while Lena played with her toys, I stepped into the kitchen to brew tea. Katrina followed quietly, standing at the doorway. "You've already done too much for me," she whispered. "You saved me, gave me shelter, and now your daughter, she trusts me. But Bublo, I'm broken. I don't belong in anyone's life." I stirred the tea slowly, my jaw tightening. "Then maybe it's time someone proved you wrong." Her eyes shimmered with confusion. I set the mug in front of her. "I don't see a broken girl, Katrina. I see someone who survived. And survivors, they're the strongest kind of people." For the first time since last night, she smiled faintly. It wasn't full, but it was real. That day she didn't leave. She helped Lena draw with broken crayons, cooked a simple meal with me in the tiny kitchen, and even hummed softly while folding laundry. It was as if my small, colorless apartment had been painted with a shade of red. the color of her dress, the color of her presence. I caught myself watching her more than once, my chest tightening in ways I hadn't felt in years. But I pushed it down. She needed safety, not complications. Still, deep inside, I knew something fragile was beginning between us. Something neither of us had planned. Days turned into weeks, and what started as a desperate rescue on a stormy bridge slowly became something none of us had expected. Katrina stayed. Not because she had to, but because she wanted to. She became part of our rhythm, helping Lena with schoolwork, cooking meals, even teasing me when I worked late fixing cars. But I could sense there was still something she held back. A secret. One evening, after dinner, I found her standing by the window, her face lit by the soft glow of the city. She looked calmer now, stronger than the trembling girl I had pulled off the bridge. But her eyes still carried the weight of unspoken words. "Bublo," she said softly, "there's something I need to tell you." I set down my tools, bracing myself. My full name is Katrina Wallace. The name hit me like a spark. Even in my small world, I had heard it before. The Wallace family, owners of companies, mansions, influence. They were a name whispered in every corner of the city. You're one of them?" I asked, stunned. She nodded, her eyes lowering. "Yes, I was born into wealth, into power. But it never felt like mine. My father, he treated me like a pawn, not a daughter. When I refused to marry the man he chose, I became nothing to him. He cut me off. I left it all behind, hoping to live free. But I wasn't strong enough. That's why you found me on the bridge that night." I stared at her, torn between disbelief and understanding. She wasn't just a girl running from pain. She was someone who had thrown away everything most people dreamed of, only to be left with nothing. She looked up, her eyes brimming. "I didn't want to tell you because I was afraid. Afraid you'd see me as just a name, not as the woman you've known these weeks." I walked closer, my heart steady now. "Katrina, I don't care about your last name. I care about the woman who laughs with my daughter, who helped bring light back into this home. The woman I pulled from that bridge, who's still standing here today." Her breath caught, and tears streamed silently down her cheeks. For the first time, she didn't look broken. She looked alive. Lena toddled into the room, holding her little red blanket. "Daddy," she said sleepily, "don't let her go." I smiled through the lump in my throat, kneeling to kiss Lena's forehead. "Don't worry, sweetheart. She's not going anywhere." When I looked up, Katrina was already crying again. But this time, it wasn't from despair. It was relief. That night, under the quiet hum of the city, I realized the truth. Saving her had saved me too. We were both broken in different ways, but together, with Lena between us, we weren't broken anymore. And maybe, just maybe, this was the beginning of something none of us had dared to dream. Sparkle's story end.